girls have to marry someone. How can you find a good husband while being so lazy? The girls' life are basically ruined if they can't find a husband. Virgins are always preferred by the boys. So the first disclaimer, this is not a video to talk shit about China. I do love my country and I love my people. I just want to share my opinions or thoughts about the sexism in China and the tough things that the Chinese girls are facing. And secondly, this is not a video to attack the Chinese boys, okay? Because in my opinion, because of the sexism in China, the Chinese boys are going through lots of tough times as well. So this is going to be a video of a cultural report based on my experience. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to talk about is parents prefer boys over girls, which in Chinese we call 重男轻女. So my parents basically treat me and my younger brother the same. Like what I have, he also has. My parents give us the same kind of love as well. But I have lots of friends. They grow up in a more traditional family. Parents basically give way more love to the boys than the girls. And it's very typical that a family already has 2 girls, and because they want to have one more boy, they decide to have another child. And I've seen many stories about, like, for example, the girl wants to go to the university, going to cost a fortune, but the parents refuse that because they just want to save that money to buy a house for their son. And also some girls are requested to do all the housework since very little, and while the boys can just sit there watching TV. And I often hear some really ridiculous comments as well. For example, he must done something wrong in his previous life, that's why he only has daughters. Or something like, he's so rich but he only has daughters, so what's the point? And the second point I'm going to talk about is all the property of the family is normally given to the son. In my case, even though I think that my parents treat me and my younger brother basically the same, when they divorced, they still decided without any hesitation that they're going to give the property to my brother and just give me nothing. I mean, it's their property, so I 100% respect it. But I've asked them why they decided to give all the property to my brother, and their answer is quite hilarious. They told me that because your brother needs the property to find a wife, and you only need to marry someone with the house, with the property from his family. And I even asked them, what if I don't want to get married? Their response is, it's not possible. You are going to get married. That's something really common here in China. Unless the family only has one daughter. If the family has one girl and one boy, normally the property is always given to the son. And what's worse is that some parents would ask the daughters to help them to buy a house for their sons. And the next point is, like what I said before, girls have to marry someone. Growing up, girls are always educated to be quiet, to be polite, to do all the housework, so you can find a good boyfriend or a good rich husband in the future. And anything beyond that standard is wrong. For example, comments like this is very normal from parents. How can you find a good husband while being so lazy? Like, I've heard that from my mom. Girls can't have dominant personality, otherwise no one would marry you. And girls are not expected to smoke, no alcohol, don't go to the parties, because that's not what good girls do. And because I'm turning 30, so my mom is getting very concerned about my marriage. She would be very picky with my boyfriend. So if my boyfriend doesn't have a good financial condition, like house, car, good salary, good future, then my mom is saying a huge no. And no marriage is definitely not an option for my mom, because if I don't get married before 30 or around 30 years old, then I would be a leftover woman, of course, and I will live the rest of my life lonely and with tragedy. And also, people give lots of comments about girls who are not married and over 30 years old. things like she has such a good degree, like she's super well educated, but she still can't find a wealthy husband, so there's no point. So for this kind of people, the girls' life are basically ruined if they can't find a husband or a good husband, a wealthy husband. But nowadays, more and more girls are choosing not to get married to get married. That's really good. So the next thing is the beauty standards for girls in China. So the girls are requested to be white, skinny, and look young. And because I have yellow skin and I'm not that skinny for Chinese girls, I was judged a lot when I was in school by the boys, which was very badly to build my confidence. I personally think that this kind of beauty standards are only going to make girls weak, because if you want to keep white, then you can't go outside too much, and if you want to be skinny, then you can't build too much muscles, and if you want to look young, then you need to spend lots of time on taking care of your skin, including hiding yourself from the sunlight. I have met a girl who has a very dark skin, and she's around 55 kilos, and she told me she's not going to find a husband here in China. And I asked her why, and she told me, because I'm not a beautiful person for the Chinese boys, but if I go outside of China, people would think that I'm pretty. And I think it's very nice for her to know that there are different kind of beauty standards. Just because the Chinese boys don't like this type of girls doesn't mean that they are not beautiful, right? And another thing is, a white, skinny, look young girl is way easier for the boys to control than a mature and sexy lady. And I think this beauty standard is so similar to the foot binding in Chinese history, which, if you don't know, is a Chinese custom of binding the girl's feet to keep it small and tiny so they can't walk too much. So I really hope that we can get rid of the modern foot binding and just really start to admire different kind of beauty. And the next thing I'm going to talk about is the girls at work. So according to a report here in China in 2022, 61.2% of the girls are asked about marriage status when applying for jobs. And that's really true, because based on my experience, most of the girls are asked if they are married, if they have boyfriends. If you're around 20 and you are single, they will definitely ask you what's your future plan about marriage. And if you already have a boyfriend, they will ask you what's your plan for marriage, what's your plan for having kids, and they will even ask you questions about your boyfriends to know your marriage plan. And because they don't want to hire someone who would get married soon or someone who would have kids soon, if you are over 30 and you are single, they will think that you are not normal and you might have mental issues. Otherwise, why you can't find a boyfriend? The next thing I'm going to talk about is the dating culture in China. I've actually talked about the dating culture in China before. You can check out here if you're interested. Unlike in America, Australia, European, in most of the Asian countries, you need to start a relationship first, and then you can start to kiss, to hug, and to have sex. Of course, if a girl is going to the parties, if a girl is flirting with lots of boys, then she would be considered as a dirty girl. But if a boy does the same thing, he would be think, of course, not good, but still sexy or attractive. And of course, virgins are always preferred. And even if a girl is not a virgin anymore, she needs to act pure. Like, she can't talk about previous relationship, she can't talk about her sex desires. And I also still meet lots of girls, they still think that they can only have sex with someone after marriage, which I 100% respect. But there's something very dangerous about this mindset, because if you think sex is something so important, and if you have sex with your boyfriend before marriage and then you broke up, then it would be very devastating for the girl. I once heard a story when I was very young, around 14 years old I think, and the girl suicided and died because her boyfriend found out that she's not virgin anymore, and the boy decided to break up with the girl. Of course, they were super young, and that's a really sad story. And in China, for our generation, we basically didn't get any sex education when we are kids. Like, I started to know about all the sex stuff after I turning like around 22 or something. And that's really bad because as girls, you can be hurt very easily. And just because the parents think sex is something very embarrassing to talk about or something you shouldn't talk about, the girls won't have any idea about sex when she's little, so she can be really easily taken advantage of because no one teaches her that you can't get touched by the boys easily, and what you can do with the boys and what you can't do with the boys, and how you can protect yourself. But luckily, because we didn't receive the sex education in our generation, I know that many parents of my age, they start to really consider giving this sex education to their own kids. And the next thing is the marriage culture in China. If a couple here in China wants to get married, normally the boy needs to provide a house and the girl needs to provide a car. Of course, a car is still expensive, but a house is impossible to be purchased by a young single man here in China. Like, it's $1 million at least. And my cousin, he's currently working in Shanghai with his girlfriend, and they've been in relationship for 8 years, and they are considering about getting married. And the girl's family requested to purchase a house in Shanghai before marriage, which is at least 5 million Chinese yuan, like the cheapest in Shanghai. I don't really know what my cousin or my cousin's family is going to do this, but this is, in my opinion, impossible. So if you're a boy in China and you don't have a house, your parents also don't have a house, it's really highly likely that you can't find a wife because you don't even meet the basic requirements of marriage in China. And because the boys are always preferred than the girls, nowadays in China there are 30 million more boys than girls. So there are going to be 30 million boys who can't find a wife. And if you don't have a house or if you don't have a good financial condition, then it's very highly likely that you are going to struggle to find a wife. And if you know Mandarin, you will know that when we say the girl married to a husband, we call it 嫁人, which means a girl is given to the boy's family and she's no longer part of her original family. So let's say a girl is born in Shanghai and the boy is in another city, and if they want to get married, it's very normal that the girl goes to the boy's city instead of the boy comes to the girl's city, which means she's going to stay away from her original family, can't spend Chinese New Year with her family anymore, and she needs to take care of the husband's parents instead of her own parents. Nowadays, more and more girls choose to refuse marriage, and they are called leftover women. As I said before, the leftover women are really badly judged by the society as mental issues, not normal, not liked by other people, and most of the time they get lots of pressure from their parents and the society of not getting married. Because I'm turning 30 and lots of my friends are turning 30s, we are getting lots of pressure from parents. Like, my mom is sending me message every single day about finding a good husband, and she would even send me information of boys so I can have blind dates with them. And even though that we tried really hard to convince them that marriage is not that important or we are not ready for marriage just yet, they are really convinced that we will regret it. I totally respect that because that's what they think is good for us. But still, I would really hope that she can relax about my marriage because I think she's my mom. She's stressing herself a lot with my marriage. That's all for today's video. I hope you really enjoyed it. Please share in the comment section what's your opinions about sexism in your country, or if you know anything about the sexism in China. Really interested to know about it. I see you next time. Bye bye.